Hi and welcome to this week's Life Lessons teaching. It's great to be back with you all. This week we are talking all about seeking approval. Now, are you stuck in a constant cycle of searching for validation or approval from other people? So this could be your partner, family members such as your parents, friends, work colleagues, or even a faceless jury of people you don't even know. Perhaps other people's opinions of you matter more to you than your opinion of you. And if you don't get reassurance or praise from other people, you end up creating feelings of anxiousness, being lost, or simply believing you're not good enough. Well, we want you to stop giving your power away like this right now. So in this teaching, we're going to be explaining what drives your approval addiction, how your needy inner child is involved in this dynamic, and what you can do starting today to start self-validating, start self-approving, so you can stay strong, confident, and self-assured no matter what other people think of you. Okay, David, so I know a lot of your clients come to you with this issue of constantly seeking approval. Why is it that a lot of people are stuck in this approval seeking cycle?
Well, you're right. It's very common. And again, like the last 2 or 3 videos, you're going to touch on several of our teachings. So the first one, let me recap for those new viewers, and I know we get new viewers each week, what we mean by the inner child. And we've done lots of resources. So if you want to delve deeper, go back and listen to the videos on the inner child and explaining and reparenting the inner child. So when we use the term inner child, we're talking about a part of your mind, that critical, comparing, judgmental part of your mind. You may prefer to call the ego. Personally, I don't like the word ego because I think you can get confused with lots of other models. Some people call it the emotional mind. Some people call it the subconscious mind. Why do I prefer the inner child? Well, I prefer that because it acts like a child. The things it does is exactly like a child does, has temper tantrums, has a sulk, cuts itself off, harms itself, is quite happy to do things to get its own way. And what we're going to talk about today is mainly the inner child process. So the question was, why do we do it? Why do we do it? Why do we seek approval or what's called validation? So if you look at the word validation, what it means is value. We're looking externally for value. And in my understanding, this resorts back to poor parenting techniques. Not poor parents, poor parenting techniques. And for most of us, we have been raised to believe that love, approval, validation is a transactional behaviour. So if you're a good girl or a good boy, mummy and daddy will value you and say, oh, aren't we proud of you? Look what you've done. Oh, you've really helped. And when you don't do well, they jump down on you like a ton of bricks. Well, it's because you're lazy. It's because I told you should go to bed earlier. It's because you've let us down. Look at what other people are doing. And they absolutely use this. I call it a carrot and a stick approach. And most parents use this parenting technique. So it's not unusual that a child would then believe automatically it's a transaction. I have to earn love. I have to earn approval. I have to do things to get it. And if I don't do things, if I don't get it in the way I want it, it must be me. There's something wrong with me. And that's the basis of this. But this talk will touch on a lot of our techniques.
So if we've experienced that sort of dynamic when we were a young child, how is that now affecting us as an adult in terms of our approval-seeking behaviour?
And this is what, when we talk about beliefs, I say in all of my videos, what do you believe, or why do you believe it? It sounds so simple, yet profound. Look at your belief system, because when you are forming formative years through that age that I talk about each video, 6 to 9 roughly, these are very formative years, because this is where we're gathering the information to build our belief system. And this belief system is like a computer program or a sat-nav that's going to guide you the rest of your life. But has anybody ever sat down with you as a child and said, come here, my child, let me teach you now your belief system? No, no, no. We gather beliefs. We watch people. We come up with them ourselves. We don't sit down and read a book. They're very ad hoc, and we don't challenge them. And this is what we want to do in these videos. Challenge your belief system. And if your belief system is right, it will come through that challenge. And this is so important, because everything we're going to talk about starts from that belief system.
So what you're saying is the beliefs are critically important, and that's
vital.
What we hold on to as adults. So when we experience as a child this bartering of love, bartering of approval, thinking that unless my mummy or daddy or teacher or grandma or grandpa praises me or says I'm good enough, or then I'm not good enough, we start to believe that our whole basis for who we are, whether we're good enough, whether we're lovable, is measured by other people's feedback. Exactly. That then becomes a belief that we create in childhood, and it's cemented in.
That's what I would call the fountainhead.
The fountainhead, the core, the original belief. Yeah. And so I guess particularly if we have a dysfunctional childhood where, as you say, if we have parents who aren't great at parenting us, who aren't emotionally balanced themselves, or we do have an upbringing in a dysfunctional family where we're not emotionally educated in an authentic way, we may start not only to have a belief whereby there's this bartering of I have to get external approval, external validation, but we may lay on top of that as well a belief that actually I'm not good enough because my mummy or daddy told me off, or my mummy or daddy ignored me, or my teacher embarrassed me at school. And we then also have a foundational belief that we're not good enough or we're unlovable. And then we layer that on top. And those beliefs are the beliefs that we then carry into adulthood.
Yes. So I would just reverse what you just said. I think you got it exactly right, but round the wrong way.
Okay.
The first thing we do when our parents do not give us what we want as children, what we do, we then blame ourselves. And in our model now, we're describing the vow. So when our parents are constantly criticizing us, comparing us with others, now a parent may do that misguidedly because they think that's going to encourage you to drive on, to prove a point, to do better. But it doesn't. In a childlike mind, then the child puts in the foundation or the fountainhead as, it must be me. There's something wrong with me. And then, as you said, the layer on top of that is, I'm not good enough. I can't cope. I'm unlovable. I'm unworthy. But the core of that is blaming yourself, looking for that parental guidance, if you like, that reassurance. You don't get it, and so you don't think as a 6-year-old, well, maybe it's my parents having an emotional episode. You haven't got that cognitive reasoning. Of course you haven't. It's very straightforward, and that's why I love the term inner child. You act like a child. You say, it must be me. If a teacher criticizes you, you don't say, well, that could be her her teaching techniques. You say, it must be me that's wrong. And so all the time, that's the fountainhead, that everything then comes through that core belief. Then you begin to layer on other beliefs and other beliefs. And then this becomes what we call the law of attraction, or the self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe you're not good enough, if you believe you can't cope, if you believe you're unworthy, then you start to create that energy which proves that belief. And so you're on the cycle now, the carousel of despair. So here's another important part of the Wu Wei model. You've now created that self-fulfilling prophecy, carousel of despair, that proves a lie. And that's what it's doing. And that's why this is so important.
I want to pick that apart a little bit, David. So we carry the beliefs that we're not good enough, that we need to seek approval, that we need validation from other people from childhood. So I understand that part. That part of our mind that we call the inner child holds on to those beliefs within us now as an adult.
Yes.
And so it keeps on operating on the same mode as when we were a child.
It's like a filter.
Seeking approval from other people, not self-referring, seeking approval. So what we may still be seeking approval from our parents, just in the same way as we were a child, but we may have transferred that approval-seeking behaviour now onto other people in our adult life. So our partner, friends, work colleagues, or just random people in general who we don't even know, to know that we're good enough.
Yes, because that's why it's a fountainhead. It becomes a way of thinking. So everything has to go through that filter. So that belief system becomes a filter, or what I sometimes call a sausage machine, and everything goes through that sausage machine. And it's built on the lie. It's built on a lie that there's something wrong with you. And you have to go and earn love. You have to go and earn approval. You have to go and earn value. And that then absolutely deep down in your subconscious mind is telling you you already have no value. And this is why this touches on the vow. You see? It's very important now. Listen to what I'm going to say. Be with me now. No one has ever held up a newborn baby. Picture in the delivery room. A newborn baby comes into the world. You hold up the baby and you look and you say, this child has no value. This child is unlovable. This child will not be able to cope. This child is not good enough. But that's what you're doing to yourself. That's the criminal behaviour that you've got to take absolute accountability for. Because every time you say this, that's the filter that you're going through. Let me just take it on one more step. It's even worse than that. If that's not bad enough, it's even worse than that. Because then what you do, you immediately give value, as Alex says, to the faceless jury, to your boss, to your partner, to your neighbour, to other people. You give them the value. How crazy is this? And you then set up this complicated confusion that we try and talk about. Here comes another Wu Wei method, the maze of confusion. You set up this very complicated system that now you're constantly searching for other people to give you this value.
And there's a lot of manipulation that goes on. We have to, that inner child part of our mind that is so desperate and needy for this approval. It's almost like it's the inner child believes that that's the only kind of nourishment it needs for its survival. It becomes singularly focused on getting this constant approval, or otherwise it believes it's just not worthy of existence somehow. It sets up this really faulty way of looking at life and itself. And we hold on to this childlike perception. And so our whole mode of operating, whether it's in our relationships, whether it's how we relate to family members, how we relate to friends, whether it's how we are in our career and our work, everything then pivots off this faulty belief system whereby we have to prove ourselves, we have to get positive strokes from other people. And so to do that, to set up that kind of dynamic involves a lot of manipulation and a lot of time and energy for ourselves.
And now you're touching on another Wu Wei model. Clients hate it when I say that, but what you're doing then, you are an emotional manipulator. You're a blackmailer. You use your emotions to get the response that you want from other people. Oh, you've really upset me. Oh, I'm really down. Oh, I'm depressed today. You use all these words because they heighten the response that you're getting. But all the time, what you're doing is trying to get the value, the approval, the reassurance from others. And here's another word, touches on the Wu-Wei model. You become emotionally addictive. You're constantly searching. It's just like you're looking for the next hit. And then what happens when somebody gives you that approval? It's never enough, is it? Yeah. It's like you raise the bar again. Here's another teaching. We've done videos because you don't believe them. Yeah. Well, they can't be that good if they're validating me, can they? There must be something wrong with them. You're on the carousel. You see the carousel coming out. You can never win this battle. But here's showing one of your greatest qualities. I call it your stubborn. I nearly swore then. Your stubbornness. You will dig in. And I want you to step back. Learn the lesson. Learn the lesson. It's not about failure. It's not about being proven wrong. No, but you could change this today. And nobody would ever know except you. Have you thought about that? You can change your belief right now. Here's what all of my clients say. Oh, you can't just change your belief, David. You change your belief every day. Every day you change your belief. This is the core belief that I would want you to examine and then be accountable. Be accountable for your beliefs. Don't blame, oh, it came from my mum. I'm just like my mum. I'm just like my dad. Well, if my dad had treated me better 40 years ago, I would have a different belief system. This is non-accountability. You've got to be accountable for what you believe and why you believe it. And stop using your emotions to manipulate other people to get the world that you want it to do, because that's just another layer of confusion. We've got to get down to this core. And Alex is right. You'll blame everyone, everything. You'll even blame the universe. It's the world. It's society. Oh my goodness, the blame never ends. It's everybody else. And you don't take that accountability for your belief.
And in not taking the accountability for this belief, in going along with the inner child, needy inner child paradigm, going along with these manipulations, constantly seeking the positive strokes or reassurance from other people, not only do we set ourselves up for failure and in a kind of emotional tears and an emotional carousel, as you described, but essentially, while we're operating on this system, operating on this seeking, searching externally system, we are at the same time denying our truth. We are not speaking our truth for fear that other people will judge us, because we only want to people please so we get reassurance. We are not following our true potential because we're following the path of manipulation to get positive strokes of other people. So we'll do whatever it takes for other people to like us, but we won't necessarily follow our own true path.
And that's what makes Wu-Wei wisdom a different teaching, because it's based in spirituality. And everything that Alex has just said, please rewind and listen to it, because you are denying your Shen, your spirituality. And I've lost count of the number of clients who've come to me and said, I don't know who I am. I've lost track of what my beliefs are. I'm just seem to be like a pinball machine going from one to another. That's what happens when you compare, when you're searching for this value. How can someone else give you value? What is value? It's not like a cup of value that I'm suddenly going to give you and you can drink it and you already have value. You are a spiritual being. By your nature, you have immense value. There is no one. How many times do I say this in these videos? There is no one in the universe like you. You are unique. And if that's not enough for you, I don't know what else you're searching for. Do you want everybody to fall down on their knees and pray to you and throw rose petals in front of you? Do you want the universe to suddenly turn on his axis and give you exactly what you want, when you want it, how you want it, the way you want it? Is that what you're looking for? Of course not. But that's what the child is looking for.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say, because although when you say it like that, David, it's like, well, of course not. That would be unreasonable. I'm never, I'm not unreasonable in my expectations. But we allow the inner child who does have that level of unreasonableness in her or his expectations to call the shots for us.
Yes.
So I know, David, the thing is, if we, as you say, drop the belief that we're not good enough, drop the belief that other people dictate to us who we are, how good we are, if we're good enough or not good enough, and self-validate, self-refer, well, it's like, what? I've never done this before. How, if I try to say, oh, well, I am good enough, I can do this, I'll be great at this or whatever, it kind of seems like an empty statement. But when other people tell me I'm good enough, it feels more validating. When people say that to you, David, how do you...
But then you see, what you've just done now is you mix two of the false beliefs together. Because if somebody says to you, oh, aren't you wonderful, and you truly believe it, my first question is, you don't truly believe it. That's my first question. How empty is that? The second question, if you did believe it, then what gives them the authority over you that knows you better than you know yourself? Because here's the dual belief system. Here comes another Wu-Wei teaching. If you truly believe that you're not enough, not good enough, can't cope, unlovable, why, when somebody says you're lovable, why do you suddenly believe you're lovable? You never do it because you hold that belief. They could do, as I said, get down on their knees, kiss your feet, tell you that you're lovable, that they're sorry for what they did with you. It's not going to change that belief because you own that belief. That's why I'm always going to the fountainhead. You've got to go to the fountainhead of your beliefs now. I understand they may have come from someone else. I understand you may have learned and copied them. Somebody may have said it to you. I understand that. But they're now your beliefs and you have to be accountable for them.
And David, that resonates so strongly because it's as if the beliefs create almost like a drug addiction. So this idea of emotional or validation addiction, approval addiction is actually a very good metaphor, because if the beliefs create this addiction to external validation or approval, when we get some reassurance or validation from someone else, it's like there's no denying we may, in that moment, whether it's for a split second, a few hours, a few days, or even a few weeks, we may experience some positive green light feelings. Like it's like a little drug hit. But because it's a deep-seated addiction, fueled by our core beliefs, fueled by that fountainhead belief and that vow that you talked about earlier, as soon as within a fleeting second or minute or day or week, that approval just disappears. It means nothing to us because we still hold the faulty belief.
It hasn't scratched the itch. It hasn't moved.
Yeah, it's like a little bit of ointment on a sore.
Exactly. It won't even last, Alex, it won't even last a day. It lasts at the most a couple of hours, at the most.
And then we're back on the cycle.
And then we're both, because the fountainhead belief is still in place. And that's why this Wu-Wei wisdom is such a challenging model to follow, because you've got to keep on digging and digging and digging until you see that core belief, until you eradicate it totally. A lot of my clients will say to me after a session or two sessions, okay, David, I think I'm 95% there. And I'm saying, then you're not there. This is 100% or nothing. It's like you cannot be a little bit pregnant. You're either pregnant or you're not pregnant. You either are looking for validation from other people or you're not. And if you're looking for value from other people, that model does not make sense. Because here's There is so many. Think about it yourself. How can someone give you value? Why would their value, their thought of you, be more important than your thought of you? Do this for yourself in your own mind now. Think of 10 of your family members and closest friends and work colleagues. If I gave them 10 questions about you, the same questions, every one of them would give me a different answer. Which one of those is true? None of them. None of them is true. So here comes another Wu Wei wisdom teaching. What other people think of me is none of my business. I repeat it. What others think of me is none of my business, because every single person, every one of you watching this will have a different opinion of what I'm saying. Which one is true? None of them is true, because I respect your opinion. I've got an opinion and a belief, and I'm telling you what I believe, and then I'm backing it up and telling you why I believe it. Now you have to do the same for you. If you disagree with me, if you say, no, David, you are wrong, other people can value me, then tell me why. Simple. Give me the evidence. Don't give me the result. Give me the evidence. Tell me why this child that you hold up, newly born, has no value. Explain that to me. Because that's what we're talking about. Because you are that child. Why do you have no value? That's the key. That's the fountainhead.
But David, that statement, you know, what other people think of me is none of my business. If our needy inner child is running our life, that statement
totally your business.
Is our needy inner child will kind of hate that statement, because to the needy inner child, what other people think of it is absolutely 100% its business, because it's absolutely 100% dictates of who it believes it is.
Absolutely. So use that experiment of the 10 people. The inner child is never going to be happy until all of the 10 people say and think exactly the same thing,
which is impossible.
Which is never going to happen.
Exactly.
So there you're on the carousel.
Yeah.
Here's the carousel again, you see? This is how, you see how these things we talk about in all of our videos, when you dig down, here's the carousel. So the inner child now will work like a Trojan. It will work hard to try and get everybody, and it's like, somebody told me the name, the whack-a-mole. It's like you hit one head down, another one comes up, and you spend your life. Now, look back at the law of attraction videos. Now, what is your intention? Your intention is nothing to do about your greatness, about you reaching your potential, about you living your life and contributing to yourself and the universe and those around you. No, no, no. Your intention is to keep on hitting the whack-a-mole. That's what your life is doing. Oh, well, she doesn't. Well, she likes me now. She doesn't like me. Oh, she doesn't like me. He likes me. Oh, they don't like me. This is what you spend your life. And this becomes your law of attraction. And then you say, well, the proof is I'm not good enough, David, is because nothing ever works out for me. No, because you're too busy hitting the bloody heads down. You're not living your life. And this is what this teaching is about you living your life. And somebody wrote in and says, David, you get kind of passionate about this. Damn right I do. Damn right I do, because I believe you're important. I believe you're valuable. I believe you inherently have great value. I believe you can give something to not only your family, but the universe. You have skills I haven't got. I want you to use them. I want you to see you flourish. This is the teachings of Taoism. For you to be in your flow, for you to flourish. And then, like dropping a pebble in a pond, the ripples will go out all around you.
So if we want to begin this journey of self-validation and self-referring, something that we've probably never done all our life because we've always looked externally, and we know we've got this needy inner child issue that we have to somehow deal with. How do we begin this process, David?
Well, it's very easy. And this is a lovely question, Alex, because this is a question that every client will ask me. And I go, this is so easy. Don't lie. Everything that goes through your self-talk, that 3 a.m. mind, when you wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning and the chaptering away, the inner child, everything that comes out of your mouth should be what you believe to be the truth and what you are accountable for. What could be easier than that? That goes back to what I said. This is what I believe. This is why I believe it. So your answer, if you disagree with this video, you should be writing into me now and saying, David, that newborn child has no value. Zero. His or her life is to get value from other people. Then if that's correct, why have they got value? If children haven't got value, if a newborn hadn't got value, where do they get their value from? It doesn't make sense. And that's what you've got to do. You've got to cut through all of the crap. You've got to cut through all of the confusion. You've got to go down to the bare roots. What do you believe? Why you believe it? You've got to stop telling yourself these confusion of lies upon lies upon lies.
If we say to ourselves, well, what do I really believe here? And the answer comes back, well, I believe I'm not good enough. Therefore, I need someone else to kind of tell me otherwise. Where do we go with that, David?
So you have to now write in and give me the evidence that you're not good enough. So people who do this, they don't give me the evidence of why they're not good enough. They give me the result of believing they're not good enough. So the evidence, and I said on many videos, if you do this for yourself, please do this for yourself. This will go back to childhood. This is why the inner child is such a good analogy, much better than ego or emotional mind or subconscious mind. And that will be something that was either told directly to you by your parents, by your teacher, by your grandparents, by your siblings, told directly to you, you're not enough, or something that you came up with as a result of what you think that they were thinking or doing. Now, where's the authority? So if it's the first one, where's the authority that you're giving to them? And especially for a lot of my clients, they'll say things like, well, my parents said it. And I said, so you're giving them authority? Yes. Yes, I believe because my parents said it, that makes it true. Then I ask them this question. So you believe everything your parents have told you? And they smile and they say, no, of course I don't. So why do you believe that and reject that? See, that's a belief system. You're doing that. The parents aren't doing it. If you're saying, well, everything my parents told me, I have to accept 100%. So if your parents told you the moon is made of green cheese, you have to accept it without question. No, of course you don't. Every human being has to question. That's what the golden thread. So here's now another part of the Wu Wei wisdom model. The golden thread. Why? 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 You question. So my question to you is, why do you reject that teaching and why do you accept that teaching? You making a judgment there. They're not. You are. Why do you do that? And there's the accountability again. See, it always comes down to this accountability. Why are you doing that? Why did you as a child, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, reject one thing, accept another thing? Now you go back and here's the final thing. So here's the life lesson. See, you haven't failed. You're not a disaster. You're not somehow subnormal. You're a child. You're a child. And you've got to learn that life lesson. You've got to correct that and stop punishing yourself. Because this is what the child believes. That if the parents see them struggling, in pain emotionally, not getting on with their life, not being successful, the parents will somehow click and go, oh, that's because we haven't taught our child right. That doesn't work. That's too complicated. Instead of you going back and saying, what is the life lesson here? The life lesson we're talking about on this video is Do you believe everything that anybody ever says to you? Where are you accountable? Where is your accountability? And that's the life lesson.
And also, as you quite rightly said, David, it's not just about believing without question what someone might have said to you in an unbalanced way as a child, but also believing without question the misunderstandings and the misinterpretations we made as a child.
Absolutely.
Say if someone ignored us or left us behind or looked at us the wrong way, we've also then in those moments misinterpreted that we're not good enough.
Yes.
So really what you're talking about here is not just about saying, well, instead of looking to this person or this person to tell me I'm good enough, to give me a like on Facebook or Instagram, or to praise how I look, or to say how wonderful my new job promotion is. It's not just about saying, well, I think I'm wonderful, I think I'm marvelous, aren't I doing well? It's not that kind of loose surface level of positive affirmation. What you're talking about, David, is really digging deep, using the golden thread process method that we teach on many of our videos and all our one-to-one client work, is digging deep to find the origin of the belief, why we believe we're not good enough. And that, from what you said, is about tracking back to that point in time, that fork in the road from when we were a child, and we, you know, as you say, we're born. We're not born with the belief that we're not good enough or that we need to seek validation. It's not in question. It's not on our horizon. But at some point, we shifted. We met that fork in the road and we took the wrong turn in our belief system.
That's the life lesson, Alex.
And so we go, if through the questioning process and we question the belief, why do I believe I'm not good enough? Why do I believe I'm unlovable? Why do I believe I have to seek approval from other people on the minutiae of who I am? If we can track back, rather than providing the evidence, the outcomes of believing that, if we can track back to the original point in time when, as a young child, we had that misunderstanding, we drew those wrong conclusions, we created the vow that it must be me, there's something wrong with me. We go back through the inner child reparenting work that we teach on so many of our videos, and I'll put a link to those videos. We go back to that point in time. That's the point in time where we have to sit quietly with our inner child and teach the child a life lesson.
Absolutely.
Because it misunderstood in that moment.
Absolutely.
And then took the wrong track.
Absolutely. So using your analogy, which is a great analogy, the golden thread retraces your path, goes back to the fork in the road that Alex is talking about. That's where you misunderstood the life lesson. That's all we're talking about. It's not about failure. It's not about being good enough. It's not about all this rubbish about unlovable. It's about a life lesson that for a child of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, there was no one there to guide it, to give it the right lesson, to have the talks that we're having now, because the people around them was equally as confused and stuck on their wrong path. Is to come back, learn the life lesson, and then start off on the new path. Now there will be a resistance from your inner child to do that, because the inner child dislikes the unknown. We've done many videos on this. I'm not going to go into this today, but the inner child will always want you to go back to the familiar, not because it's successful. It knows it's not successful. This is why it creates all these red lights. It knows it can't win this battle, but the overriding force is it likes to go on the familiar. So as Alex says, you have to retrace back to the fork, and then you have to give it the lesson, and then you have to support it while it steps up on the fresh snow, I call it, makes fresh, and then all of a sudden, guess what? The unfamiliar becomes the familiar. Then the inner child's on board, happy as Larry, and now you're living an authentic life, following your true beliefs. Your true. May not agree with your beliefs. That's fine, as long as you agree with your beliefs.
So the familiar for the inner child is the looking externally.
Yep.
The unfamiliar, the new path, the fresh snow we need to tread
Is being accountable.
Is being accountable for our beliefs, our self-talk, So if we think that, oh, I'm not good enough at this, or I don't look great, or my career's going wrong, all this negative self-talk, we need to nip that in the bud rather than turn to someone else and seek reassurance or approval.
Well, the new path, when you go back to the fork, and the new path is it learns. It's learning lesson, and it knows and it understands that everything you do new, you're not going to get it right the first time, but that's okay. That's not failure or perfection. You let go of all of that stuff.
And I think for some people, when you're beginning on this new path, away from the old habitual path that the inner child feels comfortable with, the inner child will complain, say, well, when I look within for guidance and reassurance to know that I'm on the right path, that I'm on track, that I'm doing okay, to do that self-referral, the inner child's going to say, it does not feel as reassuring as when someone else to me.
That's the familiar.
Yeah.
So it wants to take you back to the familiar.
And so that's a little trick it uses, really.
Well, we've done many videos on this. Look back in the archives. It wants to keep on telling you because it wants to keep going down to the familiar. And that's where the reparenting, comes now. He says, no, this does not work. It's never worked. It's never going to work. Let's tread this new path until this becomes familiar.
And I think really as an exercise, if we actually even sat down and thought about how many different ways throughout a single day with how many different people, including the faceless jury, that we constantly doing things where we are looking for that kind of hit, that drug hit for the approval addiction, that'll start to map out how familiar and comfortable this whole experience is.
Exactly. And then it goes back to another Wu Wei teaching that you write in. You say, you don't like when I say this. Stop it. You've got to stop it. Someone's got to take accountability. It's got to be you. Stop doing things that doesn't work. Start doing things that does work. That's what stop it means. If you're digging a hole and you don't like the hole, you don't keep digging, hoping somebody's going to come and take you out. You stop digging and you find a way out, and that's what we're talking about.
And so this does not mean that if we start self-referring and start self-validating, it does not mean that we can't take guidance off other people or listen to other people's feedback.
Absolutely.
But that feedback is part of our journey, and that we still self-refer. We still consider, is this person an authority on this matter about this element of, say, my skill set? Or, so it's not like we're saying, well, you're no longer referring at all to any external person. It's about finding this Wu Wei balance.
In fact, you refer more. Because I think it was last session or the session before, if the boss comes and skims a piece of work across and says, this isn't good enough, well, if you value him, you go, oh my God, I'm a disaster, I'm not good enough, I'm failure. If you value yourself, you take the work back to your boss and say, thank you for that feedback, not very good feedback, but thank you for that feedback. Could you tell me which bit you didn't like? And then you learn from those bits. So actually, it makes you more responsive.
Because your main agenda, your main authentic intention is for you to grow, prosper and flourish and stand in your own power. And so if someone's feedback can constructively help you do that, you want to know.
Why wouldn't you?
Your agenda is not about pleasing the boss per se. Your agenda is growing and being the best you can be.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Thank you,
And that's
David.
what we want for you.
Absolutely. So we've covered a lot of ground there. Again, clearly the inner child is involved here.
Definitely.
And as we say, to use the golden thread process, to do that self-inquiry work, to track back to that fork in the road, to find that fountainhead point which took you on the wrong track as a child, because that's what's driving your approval addiction right now. I will put links below this teaching to more inner child work teachings, more golden thread process teachings to help you with this journey. If you have enjoyed this video, please do comment below. We'd love to hear from you. Share it with someone else who you think would also benefit. If you'd like to work one-to-one with David on any of the issues we've talked about today, David works by Zoom video call with clients all over the world every week, and I will put more information about David's sessions below. Please do also subscribe to our YouTube channel. We produce new teachings every week, and we'd love to share your journey with you. We'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.